The border forests of Velaris carried whispers on the wind, stories of a rogue who walked alone, who answered to no alpha, who had blood on her hands and ice in her heart. The Silverfang pack knew her name, though none spoke it without a grimace of distrust. Tara. The word itself seemed to taste bitter on their tongues. She lived where the pack's territory ended and the wild unknown began, in a stone shelter half swallowed by moss and shadow. No fires burned in her hearth at night. No pack songs reached her ears during the full moon gatherings. She was a ghost at the edges of their world, neither fully wolf nor fully alone, suspended in the gray space between belonging and exile. The stories about her varied, depending on who told them. Some said she had killed her former packmates in a fit of rage. Others claimed she had betrayed her alpha during a territorial war, selling secrets to enemies for her own gain. A few whispered that she had gone feral, lost to the beast within, too dangerous to ever be trusted again. None of them knew the truth, and Tara had long since stopped trying to tell it. She moved through the forest with the silence of falling snow, her leather boots making no sound on the carpet of pine needles. Dawn light filtered through the canopy in golden shafts, illuminating the mist that clung to the ground. She carried a bow across her back and a hunting knife at her hip, tools she had learned to rely on in the 3 years since her exile. The deer she tracked had wandered close to Silverfang territory. She could smell the boundary markers, the territorial scent of Ronan, the alpha, strong and commanding even in its residue on tree bark. She stopped at the invisible line that divided her world from theirs, watching the deer graze just beyond her reach. For a moment, she considered crossing. The hunt would be quick. She would be gone before any patrol noticed. But Tara had learned discipline in her solitude. She had learned that survival meant choosing battles carefully, meant swallowing pride, meant accepting that some hunts were not worth the cost. She lowered her bow and turned away, leaving the deer to its peaceful mourning. She would find food elsewhere. She always did. What she did not know, as she melted back into the deeper woods, was that she was being watched. Ronan stood on the ridge above the border, his arms crossed over his broad chest, his keen eyes tracking the rogue's retreat. Even from this distance, he could see the discipline in her movements, the way she respected the boundary despite her obvious need. It contradicted everything he had been told about her. Still watching the exile? Nara's voice came from behind him, warm with affection, but touched with concern. He turned to face his mate, his Luna, the other half of his soul. Nara moved with a grace that made even the morning light seem clumsy in comparison. Her dark hair was braided back from her face, and her amber eyes held the wisdom of someone who saw beyond surface judgments. "She was tracking near our border again," Ronan said. "But she turned back. She always turns back." Nara joined him at the ridge, slipping her hand into his. "You sound almost disappointed." "I am confused," he admitted. Everything we were told about Tara painted her as reckless, dangerous, someone who would take what she wanted without regard for pack law. But in 3 years, she has never once violated our territory, not once. Perhaps the stories were wrong. Ronan's jaw tightened. The stories had come from the Nightshade Pack, Tara's former family. Their alpha, Cyrus, had sent word across Velaris that Tara was not to be trusted, that she had committed crimes that warranted permanent exile, that any pack who sheltered her would face his wrath. At the time, Ronan had accepted the word of a fellow alpha without question. Pack law was sacred. If Cyrus declared her rogue, then rogue she was. But watching her now, season after season, living alone at the edges of his territory with a dignity that belied the accusations against her, Ronan had begun to wonder, had begun to question. "The council meets tomorrow," Nara said softly. "They will ask again about the rogue situation. Some of the younger wolves want to drive her further away. They say her presence so close to our borders is a provocation." Ronan sighed. "And what do you think?" Nara was quiet for a long moment, her gaze distant. I think that someone who has survived alone for 3 years, who respects our boundaries even when hungry, who has never raised a hand against our pack despite having every reason to resent us, that someone deserves more than rumors and assumptions. You want me to speak with her. I want you to find the truth. Nara squeezed his hand. Before the council forces your hand and we do something we cannot undo. Ronan nodded slowly. His Luna's instincts were rarely wrong. If she sensed that there was more to Tara's story, then he owed it to his pack, and perhaps to Tara herself, to uncover it. But before he could make plans to seek out the rogue, fate would intervene in a way none of them could have anticipated. The hunting party left at midday, when the sun was high and the forest was alive with the sounds of late autumn. Nara led the group, as was her right as Luna. With her went their 2 children, Kael, their son of 12, and Lyra, their daughter of 9, along with 3 other pack members, Elena, Marcus, and young Tobias, who had only recently completed his first shift. It was meant to be a teaching hunt, a chance for the young ones to learn tracking and pack coordination in a controlled environment. They would pursue elk in the eastern meadows, well within Silverfang territory, far from any danger. Ronan had remained behind to handle pack business, confident that Nara would keep their children safe. She was a formidable warrior in her own right, and the hunting party was well trained. None of them expected the ambush. The creatures came from the north, from the cursed lands beyond Volaris that no pack had claimed in generations. They were wolves, but not wolves. Twisted things, larger than any natural predator, with eyes that glowed sickly yellow and foam dripping from their jaws. Ferals. Wolves who had surrendered completely to their beasts, who had lost all humanity, all reason, all pack bonds. There were 6 of them. The hunting party had been tracking elk through a narrow ravine when the ferals attacked from above, cutting off their escape route. Elena fell first. Her scream cut short as massive jaws closed around her throat. Marcus shifted immediately, his wolf form erupting in a blur of gray fur. But even in his full strength, he was outmatched. One of the ferals caught him mid-leap and slammed him into the ravine wall. Nara pushed Kyle and Lyra behind her, her own shift rippling across her body as she became the silver wolf that had given their pack its name. Tobias fought beside her, young and terrified but brave, his russet coat bristling as he snapped at their attackers. But they were outnumbered, outmatched, and they were dying. Tara was miles away when she heard the first scream. She was gathering wild herbs near a stream, her basket half full, when the sound echoed through the forest like a knife cutting through silk. Every instinct she had, honed in 3 years of solitary survival, came alive at once. She knew that scream, knew the terror in it. Pack wolves, in trouble. Her first thought was to ignore it. Not her pack, not her problem. She had learned to be selfish, learned that caring about others only led to pain. But then she heard the second scream. Younger, a child. Tara was running before she made the conscious decision to move. She knew these forests better than any pack wolf. She had walked every deer trail, crossed every stream, memorized every shortcut. She flew across the ground like a shadow given form, her bow forgotten, her knife drawn, her heart pounding, not with fear, but with a purpose she had not felt in years. She reached the ravine in minutes. The scene that greeted her was carnage. 2 pack wolves lay motionless. 3 more, 1 silver, 2 smaller, fought desperately against 6 ferals, their movements growing sluggish, their blood painting the rocks red. Tara did not hesitate. She launched herself from the ravine's edge with a running leap, her knife flashing in the afternoon light. She landed on the back of the nearest feral, driving her blade deep into the base of its skull. The creature went down with a gurgling howl, and she was already moving, rolling aside as another feral snapped at where she had been. The silver wolf, Nara, though Tara did not know her name, turned at the sudden intervention, shock visible even in her wolf eyes. But there was no time for questions. A feral lunged at the 2 pups cowering behind Nara, and the Luna threw herself in its path, jaws closing around its throat, even as another feral raked claws down her flank. Tara moved like water, like wind, like something wild and untamed. She had no pack bonds to strengthen her, no alpha's power to draw from. She had only her skill, her speed, and a ferocity born of 3 years spent surviving alone against odds that would have broken lesser wolves. She caught a feral mid-leap, using its own momentum to redirect it into the ravine wall. Her knife found its heart before it could recover. Another rushed her from the side, and she dropped low, letting it sail over her, then sprang up to drive her blade into its exposed belly. 3 ferals down, 3 to go, but she was tiring. Blood ran from a dozen cuts across her arms and legs. Her breath came in ragged gasps. The remaining ferals circled her and Nara, sensing weakness, preparing for a final coordinated strike. The young russet wolf, Tobias, tried to charge one of them and was batted aside like a leaf. He hit the ground hard and did not rise. One of the pups, the boy, started to shift, his small body beginning the transformation to help defend his mother. But he was too young, too inexperienced. The shift was painful, incomplete. He cried out, caught between forms. That cry broke something in Tara. She thought of another pup, years ago, another child who had needed protection, another moment when she had chosen to act instead of obey, and had lost everything. Not again. She let out a roar that was half human, half wolf, a sound of pure defiance that echoed off the ravine walls. The ferals hesitated, confused by the challenge from a lone human. In that moment of hesitation, Tara moved. She did not fight like a pack wolf. She fought like a rogue, with no honor, no rules, no mercy. She used the terrain, the narrow space, the ferals' own size against them. She was a whirlwind of calculated violence, every movement precise, every strike lethal. When the last feral fell, its throat opened by her blade, Tara collapsed to her knees in the blood-soaked dirt. Her vision swam, her hands shook, she had nothing left. She waited for the killing blow from the silver wolf, waited for Nara to see her as a threat, to finish what the ferals had started. Instead, she felt gentle jaws close around her collar, carefully lifting her, and heard a low whine of gratitude. Then, the world went dark. Tara woke to firelight and soft voices. She was lying on something comfortable. Furs, she realized, piled on a wooden platform. A bed. She could not remember the last time she had slept in an actual bed. Her body ached, but the sharp pain of her wounds had dulled to a manageable throb. Someone had cleaned and bandaged her injuries. She sat up slowly, her head spinning, and took in her surroundings. She was in a large room built of timber and stone, with tapestries hanging on the walls and a fire crackling in a river rock hearth. Through an open doorway, she could see a hallway lit by lanterns. This was not her shelter at the forest's edge. This was pack territory, pack home. Panic flared in her chest. She tried to stand, to find her knife, to escape, but her legs gave out, and she fell back onto the bed with a gasp of pain. Easy. The voice was male, deep and commanding, and it came from the doorway. Tara's head snapped up. The man who entered was tall and powerfully built, with dark hair that fell to his shoulders and eyes the color of storm clouds. He carried himself with the unmistakable authority of an alpha. Even in human form, his presence filled the room. Ronan. She had never seen him up close before, had only glimpsed him from a distance during her years at the border. But she knew him instantly. Every rogue in Volaris knew the alpha of Silverfang. "You are safe here," Ronan said, raising his hands to show he was unarmed. "You have my word." Tara's throat was dry. "Where am I?" "The heart of Silverfang territory, our main den." He moved closer, slowly, as if approaching a wounded animal. "You saved my family, my mate, my children. You nearly died doing it." Memory flooded back. The ravine, the ferals, the silver wolf and the pups. "Are they alive?" The words came out hoarse. "Yes, thanks to you." Ronan sat in a chair near the bed, his posture deliberately non-threatening. Nara is healing. She will have scars, but she will live. Kyle and Lyra are shaken but unharmed. Tobias will recover, though his pride is wounded. Marcus has a concussion, but will be fine. He paused, and his expression darkened. Elena did not survive. The first strike killed her instantly. Tara closed her eyes. She had known, even in the chaos, that at least one pack member was already gone. But hearing it confirmed still hurt. "I am sorry for your loss," she said quietly. "You gave us a fighting chance. Without your intervention, I would have lost everyone I love." Ronan leaned forward, his gaze intense. "Why did you help us? We have never shown you kindness. We exiled you from any hope of pack life. You owed us nothing." Tara was silent for a long moment. She could hear voices in the distance, pack members moving through the den, the sounds of family, of belonging, of everything she had lost. "A child was in danger," she finally said. That was reason enough. Ronan studied her, and she saw the questions in his eyes. Questions she knew he would eventually ask. Questions she was not sure she could answer without breaking. "Rest," he said, standing. "You are under my protection now. No one will harm you. We will speak more when you are stronger." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Tara," he said, and she flinched at the sound of her name on his lips. "Whatever stories I heard about you, whatever I believed before today, I know now that I was wrong, and I intend to make that right." He left her alone with her thoughts and the crackling fire. Tara lay back down, staring at the wooden beams of the ceiling, and for the first time in 3 years, she allowed herself to feel something other than numb determination. She felt hope, fragile and terrifying, but real. 3 days passed before Tara was strong enough to walk without assistance. Nara came to visit her on the 2nd day, her injuries wrapped in clean bandages, her amber eyes warm with gratitude. She brought food, real food, not the sparse meals Tara had survived on, and sat with her while she ate, asking nothing, demanding nothing, simply offering companionship. On the 3rd day, the pups came. Kale was solemn and serious, too grown up for his 12 years, clearly shaken by how close they had come to death. Lyra was more open, her 9-year-old curiosity overriding her fear. She asked Tara questions about living alone in the forest, about tracking, about fighting. Tara found herself answering, found herself almost smiling at the girl's enthusiasm. It was strange being around pack wolves again. Strange and painful, and something else she could not quite name. On the 4th day, Ronan asked her to walk with him. They left the den at dusk when the pack was gathering for the evening meal. Ronan led her to a quiet clearing overlooking the valley, where the lights of Silverfang territory spread out below them like stars on the ground. "This is beautiful," Tara said softly. "My grandfather chose this spot for our den," Ronan replied. "He said that an alpha should always be able to see his territory, to remember what he was responsible for protecting." He turned to face her, his expression serious. "Tara, I need to know the truth. All of it. Cyrus of Nightshade Pack sent word 3 years ago that you were dangerous, that you had committed crimes against your pack. But the woman who saved my family, who nearly died to protect strangers, does not match that description." Tara's hands clenched at her sides. She had known this moment would come, had dreaded it. "What do you want to know?" Her voice was steady, but her heart raced. "Everything. Start at the beginning." So she told him. She told him about growing up in Nightshade Pack, about being raised by an alpha who valued strength above all else, who saw compassion as weakness. She told him about the old laws that Cyrus enforced with brutal efficiency, laws that said defective pups should be abandoned, that rogues caught on their territory should be killed without trial, that questioning the alpha's word was grounds for exile. She told him about the pup. "Her name was Mira," Tara said, her voice barely above a whisper. She was born to one of the Omega families, but she was small, and she had trouble shifting. The pack healer said she might never fully control her wolf. Cyrus declared her defective. He ordered her to be taken beyond the borders and left to die. Ronan's expression had gone cold with anger, but he said nothing, letting her continue. I could not let it happen. I took Mira before the death party could leave. I ran with her to the human settlements at the edge of Valaris. I found a family there, a good family who had lost their own daughter. They agreed to raise her, to keep her safe. Tara's hands shook at the memory. By the time I returned to Nightshade territory, Cyrus knew everything. He called me before the pack and gave me a choice: renounce what I had done, declare that I had made a mistake in valuing one weak pup over pack law, and accept punishment. Or be exiled as a rogue, with a bounty on my head if I ever tried to join another pack. You chose exile, Ronan said quietly. I chose to stand by my choice. Mira deserved to live. She deserved a chance. Tara met his eyes, her own burning with unshed tears. Cyrus sent word to every pack in Valaris that I was a murderer, that I had killed pack members who tried to stop me. He lied, but he is an alpha, and I was just one wolf. Who would believe me over him? I would have, Ronan said, and the conviction in his voice made her breath catch. I should have. I should have questioned his story, should have sought the truth before accepting his word as law. You did not know me. You had no reason to doubt him. I had no reason to trust him either. Not without proof. Ronan stepped closer to her, his presence overwhelming but not threatening. Tara, what you did, saving that pup, choosing exile over denouncing an act of mercy, that took more courage than any battle I have ever fought. And what you did in that ravine, risking your life for wolves who had treated you as an enemy, that was honor beyond measure. Tara shook her head. I am still a rogue, still exiled. Your pack? My pack will hear the truth, all of it. Ronan's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Tomorrow night, I am calling a gathering. You will stand before Silverfang Pack and tell your story, just as you told it to me. And then I will offer you a choice. What choice? To join us, to become one of Silverfang, to have a home again. The words struck her like a physical blow. She staggered back a step, shaking her head. That is impossible. Pack law. Pack law says that an alpha has the right to accept wolves into his pack as he sees fit, so long as they pose no threat to pack safety or well-being. You saved my Luna and my children. You have proven yourself 100 times over. Ronan's expression softened. But more than that, Tara, you deserve better than survival at the edges of civilization. You deserve family, pack, home. Tara wanted to believe him, wanted it so desperately that it frightened her. And if your pack rejects me, she whispered, then they will answer to me and to Nara, who has already declared that you are under her protection as Luna. He smiled slightly. My mate is very persuasive when she chooses to be, but I do not think it will come to that. Silverfang Pack values truth and honor. When they hear your story, they will see you as I do. As what? As someone who embodies the best of what a wolf can be. Someone who chooses compassion over cruelty, honor over obedience, sacrifice over safety. He held out his hand. Let me make this right, Tara. Let me give you what Cyrus took away. She looked at his outstretched hand for a long moment. 3 years of isolation, of pain, of believing she would never again know the warmth of pack bonds, warred with the fragile hope growing in her chest. Finally, slowly, she placed her hand in his. Okay, she said. I will tell them my story. The gathering took place in the great hall at the center of Silverfang's den, a massive space carved from living rock and timber. The entire pack assembled, over 60 wolves, from elders to pups, all of them curious about why their alpha had called such a formal meeting. Tara stood at the front of the hall, Ronan on one side and Nara on the other. She could feel the weight of dozens of eyes on her, could smell the mixture of curiosity, suspicion, and hostility in the air. Many of these wolves had grown up hearing the stories about the dangerous rogue at their borders. Ronan stepped forward, his voice carrying easily through the space. "I have called you all here tonight to address a matter of justice. 3 years ago, I accepted the word of Alpha Cyrus of Nightshade Pack without question. He declared that Tara was a rogue who had committed crimes against her former pack, and I honored his judgment by barring her from Silverfang territory." He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the assembled wolves. "I was wrong to accept those words without seeking the truth. And in doing so, I dishonored not only Tara, but all of us. Because Silverfang Pack stands for honor, for truth, for protecting those who cannot protect themselves. And Tara embodies all of those things more than I understood." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Ronan raised a hand for silence. 4 days ago, a hunting party was ambushed by ferals. My mate, my children, and 3 pack members were moments from death. And it was Tara, the rogue we exiled from our territory, the woman we treated as a threat, who risked her life to save them. She fought 6 ferals with nothing but a knife and her courage. She nearly died to protect wolves who had shown her nothing but suspicion. Nara stepped forward then, her voice clear and strong despite her injuries. "I was there. I saw what she did. Without Tara, I would be dead. Our children would be dead. She had no obligation to help us, no reason to care. But she came anyway. She fought anyway, and that tells me everything I need to know about her character." Kale and Lyra stood in the front row with the other young wolves. Kale spoke up, his young voice steady. "She saved us. She saved our mother. We owe her our lives." Lyra nodded emphatically, her eyes shining with admiration. Ronan gestured for Tara to step forward. "Now you will hear the truth. Tara will tell you why she was exiled, and then you will decide, as a pack, whether she deserves a place among us." Tara took a breath and began to speak. She told them everything: the old laws of Nightshade Pack, the pup named Mira, her choice to save an innocent life at the cost of her own belonging. She told them about Cyrus's ultimatum, about the lies he spread, about 3 years of surviving alone rather than betraying her principles. By the time she finished, the great hall was silent. Many of the wolves had tears in their eyes. The elders looked grave and thoughtful. Even those who had entered the gathering with suspicion now watched her with something like respect. An old wolf named Gareth, one of Ronan's senior advisors, stood. "Alpha, I have a question for Tara." Ronan nodded. Gareth turned to Tara. "You saved a pup at great cost to yourself. You lived alone for 3 years, exiled and hunted. And then, when you had every reason to hate all pack wolves, to see us as your enemies, you risked your life to save this pack's family. Why?" Tara met his eyes steadily. "Because that is what pack means, or what it should mean. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We choose mercy when we have the strength to do so. We stand for something more than power and territory. That is what I was taught pack should be. That is what I still believe, even after everything." She looked around the great hall at all the faces watching her. "I did not help your Luna and her children because I wanted something from you. I did it because it was right, because they needed help, and I was there. That is all." Gareth nodded slowly, then turned to Ronan. "Alpha, I believe her, and I believe she deserves to be one of us." Other voices rose in agreement, not all of them. There were still some who looked uncertain, who would need time to accept this change. But the majority of the pack was nodding, murmuring their support. Ronan let the voices swell, then raised his hand for silence again. "As Alpha of Silverfang Pack, I formally offer Tara a place among us. She will have all the rights and responsibilities of pack membership. She will be under our protection, and she will contribute to our community as her skills and spirit allow." He turned to Tara. But the choice is yours. After everything you have endured, you may not want to be part of a pack again. If you wish to remain free, to continue living as you have, I will respect that decision. No one here will stand in your way. Tara felt the weight of the moment settle over her. This was the choice she had not allowed herself to hope for. The chance to belong again, to have family, home, pack. But it came with risk. Opening herself to these bonds meant opening herself to the possibility of loss, of betrayal, of pain. She had spent 3 years building walls around her heart, learning not to need anyone. She looked at Nara, who smiled at her with warmth and acceptance, at Kale and Lyra, who watched her with hope in their young eyes, at Ronan, who had listened to her truth and believed her when he had no obligation to do so. She thought of Mira, wherever she was now, hopefully safe and loved and growing strong. And she thought of what it had felt like, fighting beside Nara in that ravine, protecting those pups, the sense of purpose, of rightness. "I accept," she said, her voice clear and steady. "I would be honored to join Silverfang Pack." The great hall erupted in howls of welcome, the sound rising through the stone and timber out into the night, announcing to all of Volaris that Silverfang had gained a new member. Ronan stepped forward and placed his hand on her shoulder, the gesture both formal and warm. "Welcome home, Tara of Silverfang." And for the first time in 3 years, Tara felt the pack bond settle around her like a warm cloak, connecting her to the wolves around her, making her part of something larger than herself. She was home. The weeks that followed were an adjustment. Tara had grown accustomed to solitude, to making decisions without consultation, to answering to no one. Pack life required compromise, cooperation, community. There were schedules to keep, duties to fulfill, relationships to navigate. But there was also laughter, shared meals, stories told around evening fires, the comfort of knowing that she was not alone, that there were others who would stand beside her if danger came. Nara became a friend, patient and understanding, as Tara learned to trust again. They often walked together in the early mornings, before the pack stirred, talking about everything and nothing. Kale and Lyra adopted Tara as something between an older sister and an aunt. They followed her around the den, asking endless questions about her time in the forest, begging her to teach them tracking and survival skills. She found herself enjoying their company more than she expected, their enthusiasm infectious. Ronan gave her space to find her place in the pack's hierarchy. She was not dominant, not particularly social, but she was respected. Her skill as a scout and hunter quickly became apparent, and she took on patrols along the borders, the one area where her years of solitary experience gave her an advantage. 2 months after joining Silverfang, Tara stood on the ridge where Ronan had once watched her from a distance, looking out over the territory that was now hers to help protect. The winter snows had begun, dusting the forest in white, making everything quiet and clean. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to find Ronan approaching. "I thought I might find you here," he said, coming to stand beside her. "I used to watch this ridge from the border," Tara admitted. "I would see you standing here sometimes, looking out over your territory. I wondered what that felt like, to have something worth protecting. And now I understand." She smiled slightly. "It feels like purpose, like responsibility, like home." Ronan was quiet for a moment. "I received word from the Council of Alphas yesterday. They are meeting in the spring to discuss pack laws, territorial disputes, and other matters of governance across Volaris." Tara tensed. The Council of Alphas was the highest authority in their world, and Cyrus would be there. "I plan to bring a petition before the Council," Ronan continued. "I want to propose changes to how rogues are treated, how exile is determined, how alphas are held accountable for their judgments. What happened to you should never happen to another wolf. Cyrus will fight it. He will not want his authority questioned. Let him fight." Ronan's voice was firm. The council needs to hear the truth about what he did, about the old laws he enforced, about the pup you saved. Other alphas need to know that there are consequences for abusing their power. Tara looked at him in surprise. You would challenge another alpha for me? I would challenge an unjust system for all of us. For every wolf who might face what you faced. For every pup like Mira who deserves protection instead of abandonment. He met her eyes. You changed my pack, Tara. You made us question assumptions we had never examined. You made us better. Now I want to help change Velaris. It will not be easy. Many alphas will resist. Nothing worthwhile is easy. Ronan smiled. But I will not be alone. Other alphas have already expressed interest in reform, and I will have the support of the strongest wolf I know. Who? You. I want you to come with me to the council. I want you to tell your story to the alphas of Velaris, just as you told it to Silverfang Pack. Let them see what their old laws cost. Let them meet the wolf who survived despite everything they took from her. Tara felt fear and hope warring in her chest. Facing Cyrus again, confronting the alpha who had destroyed her life, would be one of the hardest things she had ever done. But it might also help others, might prevent future injustices, might turn her pain into something meaningful. Okay, she said. I will go with you. I will tell them everything. Ronan placed a hand on her shoulder, the gesture full of pride and respect. Thank you. For trusting me, for trusting Silverfang, for being brave enough to keep fighting. I am not brave, Tara said quietly. I am just stubborn. The best kind of bravery. Ronan laughed, then grew serious again. You know, when I first saw you at the border all those months ago, I saw a rogue, an outsider, someone to be wary of. But you were never those things. You were a wolf without a pack, yes, but you never stopped being a wolf, never stopped having honor, courage, loyalty. Those things were always in you. We just needed to see it. I needed to see it too, Tara admitted. For a long time, I believed what Cyrus said about me, that I was worthless, dangerous, better off alone. It took your family, your pack, to show me that I was more than his judgment. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over Silverfang territory, painting the snow in shades of gold and pink. The pack is gathering for the evening meal, Ronan said eventually. Will you join us? Nara is making her famous venison stew. Tara smiled. I would like that. They walked back to the den together, alpha and pack member, leader and friend. Behind them, the ridge stood empty and peaceful, a place that had once marked the boundary between belonging and exile. Now it was just another beautiful part of the territory Tara called home. Spring came to Velaris with a rush of green and the sound of melting ice. The forests filled with new life, and the packs emerged from their winter dens ready to reclaim their territories and settle old disputes. The Council of Alphas met in neutral ground, an ancient stone amphitheater built generations ago for just such gatherings. Representatives from every major pack in Velaris attended: Silverfang, Nightshade, Ironwood, Shadowpine, and half a dozen others. Tara stood at the edge of the amphitheater, her heart pounding as she watched the alphas take their places. Ronan was at the center, commanding and confident, and across from him, his expression cold and arrogant, sat Cyrus. Her former alpha looked older than she remembered, with gray threading through his dark hair and harsh lines etched around his mouth. But his eyes were the same, calculating, ruthless, utterly certain of his own rightness. Those eyes found her in the crowd and narrowed with recognition and contempt. The council proceeded through various matters of pack business, territorial boundaries, trade agreements, dispute resolutions. Tara listened with half an ear, her attention focused on the moment that was coming, the confrontation she had dreaded and prepared for in equal measure. Finally, near the end of the session, Ronan stood to address the council. Honored alphas, he said, his voice carrying easily across the amphitheater. I come before you today to propose changes to our laws regarding rogues and exile. Specifically, I believe we need clearer standards for when exile is justified, better protections for wolves accused of crimes, and consequences for alphas who abuse their authority. Murmurs rippled through the gathered wolves. Several alphas leaned forward with interest. Others frowned, clearly resistant to any limitation on their power. Cyrus stood, his expression disdainful. Alpha Ronan, with respect, these laws have served us well for generations. Why do you seek to change them now? Because they failed. Ronan's response was blunt. They failed a wolf named Tara, who was exiled from your pack 3 years ago for an act of mercy. They failed a pup named Mira, who would have been left to die for being different. And they will continue to fail others unless we demand better of ourselves. Cyrus's face darkened. You dare to question my judgment regarding a member of my own pack? I question a system that allows an alpha to exile a wolf without oversight, without appeal, without accountability. Ronan gestured to Tara. This wolf saved my mate and children from a feral attack at great risk to her own life. She lived in exile for 3 years, surviving alone, all because she chose compassion over cruelty. And according to our laws, that was her crime. She defied her alpha, Cyrus snapped. She broke pack law. That is grounds for exile in any pack. Then our pack laws are wrong. The words rang out across the amphitheater, firm and unyielding. If our laws say that mercy is a crime, that protecting the innocent is defiance, that an alpha's word cannot be questioned even when that word is unjust, then we need new laws. The council erupted in arguments, some alphas supporting Ronan's position, others defending the traditional authority of pack leaders. The debate raged for several minutes before the eldest alpha, a white-haired woman named Astrid of Ironwood Pack, raised her hand for silence. Enough, she said, her voice carrying the weight of age and wisdom. Alpha Ronan, you make serious accusations against Alpha Cyrus. Do you have proof of these claims? I have Tara's testimony, and I have my own observations of her character over the past months. The testimony of an exile? Cyrus scoffed. She would say anything to cast herself in a better light. Then let her speak, Astrid said firmly. Let us hear her story directly, and let Alpha Cyrus respond. The council will judge the truth of the matter. Ronan nodded and turned to Tara. The council will hear you now. Tara stepped forward, her legs shaking but her voice steady. Every eye in the amphitheater turned to her, alphas, lunas, pack representatives, all watching to see if this lone wolf could challenge the authority of a powerful alpha. She told them everything. The pup Mira, the death sentence, her choice to save an innocent life, Cyrus's ultimatum and the lies he spread, 3 years of exile, the moment she chose to help Silverfang despite having every reason to let them die. She spoke plainly, without embellishment, simply stating the facts as they had happened. When she finished, the amphitheater was silent. Cyrus stood again, his face flushed with anger. This is a fabrication. Tara was exiled for violence against pack members, not for saving some defective pup. She is lying to gain sympathy. Am I? Tara's voice was soft, but carried clearly. Then tell the council about Mira. Tell them her name. Tell them what happened to her. She was a rogue pup, abandoned by her mother. She has nothing to do with... She was born to the Omega family in your pack. Her parents' names were Dara and Finn. She had trouble shifting, and your healer declared her defective. You ordered her death. Tara took a step closer, her eyes locked on Cyrus. I took her to a human family in the settlement at the eastern edge of Valaris. They named her Emma. She is alive and well, and has never shifted because she is being raised as human. That is the pup I saved. That is why you exiled me. Cyrus's expression flickered, just for a moment, with something that might have been guilt or might have been rage. Even if that were true, You defied your Alpha's direct order. That alone is grounds for exile. But was the order just? Astrid's voice cut through the tension. That is the question before this council. Alpha Cyrus, did you order the death of a pup because she had trouble shifting? I enforced pack law. The old laws that have kept our packs strong for generations. The old laws are not infallible. Another Alpha spoke up, a younger man named Eric of Shadowpine Pack. My own pack abandoned such practices years ago. We do not kill our young simply because they are different. It is barbaric. Other Alphas nodded in agreement. The tide was turning. Astrid stood, her authority commanding immediate silence. The council has heard both sides. We will now vote on Alpha Ronan's proposals. First, do we agree that the exile of Tara was unjust? Hands rose across the amphitheater, a clear majority. Second, do we agree that pack laws regarding exile should require oversight and appeal processes? Again, a majority voted yes. Third, should Alphas who abuse their authority face consequences from this council? The vote was closer this time, but still passed. Astrid turned to Cyrus. Alpha Cyrus, the council finds that your exile of Tara was unjust, and that your enforcement of old laws regarding defective pups violates the spirit of pack bonds and protection. You are hereby censured. Your authority will be monitored by this council, and any future exiles from Nightshade Pack will require our approval. Cyrus's face went white with rage, but he could say nothing. The council had spoken. Astrid then turned to Tara. Tara of Silverfang Pack, the council recognizes the injustice done to you. Your exile is formally nullified. You are free to return to Nightshade Pack if you wish, with full restoration of your former status. Tara shook her head. Thank you, Honored Alpha, but I have no desire to return to Nightshade. Silverfang is my home now, my pack, my family. Then the council recognizes your place in Silverfang Pack and commends you for your courage in standing before us today. Astrid's expression softened. You have done a great service to all of Volaris. Because of your testimony, we will reform our laws to protect others who might face similar injustice. The council session ended with formal acknowledgments and the beginning of work on the new oversight systems. Alphas gathered in small groups to discuss the implications, some excited by the changes, others grudgingly accepting them. Tara found herself surrounded by wolves from other packs, many offering words of support, some sharing their own stories of unjust treatment under old laws. She listened to them all, realizing that her story had given voice to others who had suffered in silence. Ronan appeared at her side, Nara with him, both beaming with pride. You did it, Nara said, embracing her. You changed everything. We changed everything, Tara corrected. I could not have stood before the council without Silverfang's support. And we could not have become the pack we are meant to be without you, Ronan said. You saved more than my family in that ravine, Tara. You saved our pack's soul. As the sun set over the amphitheater and the Alphas began to depart for their territories, Tara stood with her pack, with Ronan and Nara, with Kael and Lyra, who had insisted on coming to watch her testimony, with the dozen Silverfang wolves who had traveled to support her. She thought about the wolf she had been 3 years ago, exiled and alone, believing herself worthless. And she thought about the wolf she was now, pack member, friend, the catalyst for change that would protect countless others. She had been called a rogue, an outcast, a danger, but she had never been those things. She had always been a wolf who stood for something bigger than herself, who chose mercy over cruelty, honor over obedience, sacrifice over safety. And now, finally, the world saw her as she truly was, Tara of Silverfang Pack, hero, reformer, home. Epilogue. 5 years later, Tara stood in the same clearing where Ronan had once offered her a place in Silverfang Pack. But this time, she was not alone. Beside her stood a young woman, almost adult now, with brown hair and uncertain eyes. Mira, or Emma as she had been raised, had reached out through the human settlement, asking to meet the wolf who had saved her life all those years ago. "I do not remember you," Mira said softly. "I was too young. But my parents, my human parents, told me everything when I turned 16. They told me I was different, that I had another family once, that a wolf named Tara gave up everything to save me." "I did what anyone should have done," Tara replied. "I protected a child. You lost your pack for me, your home, 3 years of your life. And I would do it again." Tara smiled. "Mira, you deserved to live, to grow up safe and loved. That was worth any cost." Mira was quiet for a moment, looking out over Silverfang territory. "The humans who raised me are good people. They love me. But I have always felt like something was missing, like there was a part of me I did not understand." "The wolf," Tara said. "Yes, it is still there. I can feel it sometimes, especially during the full moon. But I never learned to shift. I do not know how." "Would you like to learn?" Mira's eyes widened. "Could I? Even though I am not part of any pack?" "You can be part of mine, if you want." Tara held out her hand. "Silverfang Pack has a place for anyone who needs one. We believe in second chances, in redemption, in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. That includes you, Mira." The young woman took her hand, tears streaming down her face. "I would like that, very much." Over the following months, Mira learned to shift under Tara's patient guidance. She divided her time between her human family and Silverfang Pack, bridging both worlds, finding her place in each. And when she finally succeeded in her first full transformation, howling her joy to the moon surrounded by Silverfang wolves, Tara felt a circle close. She had saved a pup and lost everything. But in losing everything, she had found her true pack, changed unjust laws, and given hope to others who had been cast aside. She had been called a rogue, but she had become so much more. She had become the change that Valaris needed, the voice for the voiceless, the protector of the vulnerable. And she had found, in the end, that home was not a place or a pack name or even the acceptance of others. Home was knowing who you were, standing for what you believed in, and surrounding yourself with people who saw your worth, even when the world did not. Tara of Silverfang Pack stood on the ridge that night, watching Mira celebrate with the pack below, and felt complete. She had lost everything and found everything, and she would not change a single moment of the journey that had brought her here. What did you think of Tara's journey? Have you ever had to stand up for what's right, even when it cost you everything? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to read more stories about courage, redemption, and wolves who change the world, hit that subscribe button and join our pack. New stories drop every week. Until next time, remember, true strength isn't about power. It's about choosing mercy when you have the strength to show it. Stay wild, stay brave, and never stop fighting for what's right.